Welcome to Retro Quest, my retro video gaming podcast where I force my son to play old video games. I'm your host, D.
And I am your co-host, Sako.
So, my co-host, Sako, how are you doing this week?
Doing great. Been a while since we sat down here and talked, but I'm feeling excited. Really been preparing for the special episode that we've got going on. Did not much research, which I probably should have done, but I did a little bit. So
You did a little research on the game,
yes.
which of course this week we played
Friday the 13th
for the NES. Yes, that gem, that LJN jam. Yeah, what'd you think?
Oh, it was a whole thing.
All right, we'll get into that. And first, let's do a little bit of the backstory of Friday the 13th for the NES. Now, of course, it is an LJN game. You don't probably know what that means.
LJN?
That is the company that made it.
Oh, okay.
And as we go through this Retro Quest
Probably find more of them.
that we are on, we are going to be playing. As a matter of fact, I think the next game we're going to play is going to be the Nightmare on Elm Street game,
Is that
which
LJN?
is also an LJN gem. See, LJN is a company known for making licensed games, making like movie tie-in games or whatever, and that's what they're known for, as well as they're known for making shitty games.
I kind of feel that.
Now, not saying this game is a shitty game, but we'll get into it.
Yeah.
There's some of my favorite games. must have had really bad
Game taste?
taste, yeah, in gaming as a kid, which created nostalgia for. I like shitty games nowadays sometimes too, but the point is a lot of my games I really like on the NES are LJN games. Not my favorite games, but a lot of the games I actually like are made by LJN. I think LJN was a toy company, and somehow they would get the licensed tie-in movies, or I think they had like some that weren't movie tie-ins, but maybe like toy tie-ins. Pretty sure LJN was a toy company, started by somebody who just wanted to be in the video game industry, but didn't know how to make games. Well, see, the thing with LJN is I don't think really any of their games were made in-house. They would get the rights to these licensed games and then farm them out to other gaming companies to make this game. Like Friday the 13th, as well as I believe Nightmare on Elm Street, were both developed by Atlas.
Okay, I've heard that name before.
Atlas is the company behind the Persona series and the Shin Megami Tensei series. They are actually a really good company that you know, sometimes you do some things for money, sometimes they're not the best things.
Yeah, I would know.
This is early in Atlas, I'm assuming, because it's NES.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun game with zombies and Medusa heads. Yeah, that's about all the history I want to go into the game, because it's Friday the 13th. It's fucking Jason. What more history do you need, honestly?
Exactly.
I mean, as a kid, as you well know, Mr. Sako, horror movies are a thing in our family.
Oh, yes.
From very, very small ages, we are...
engulfed in the horror movies.
I remember being 5 years old and my mom taking me to a fucking Friday the 13th movie in the theaters. You know, it was like kind of thing like in growing up in the house, it was like you either watch cartoons or you watch horror movies. And I was obsessed with Friday the 13th as a kid, and I was obsessed with Nightmare on Elm Street as a kid, and I was super obsessed with Hellraiser as a teenager.
Honestly, so even like when I lived with my mom, it was kind of like that though. Like we had horror movies and we had cartoons. Like, and like there were a few like adult humor films, but like I was like 8 years old, so they weren't fun to watch for me because I didn't get what they were. So like the only options for entertainment I had were like really little kids, like Thomas the Train like cartoons, or
oh, you are Thomas the Train,
or like horror movies. So
and you are a horror movie.
I'm sure I am.
So yeah, LJN. I think they made the Beetlejuice game. which is
I've heard
a
bad
shitty
things
game,
about
but
that
I
one.
love that game. That's the thing. I can recognize a shitty game, and I can separate myself and be like, okay, that's a shitty game, but I like that game.
Yeah.
They don't have a whole lot of experience with the Nightmare on Elm Street game. I never owned that game. I rented it a few times. I've played it. The Friday the 13th game, my grandma bought me that game. I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7. Whenever the game came out, my grandma bought me that game. For I don't even think it was for a thing. I think it just came out, and I was at my grandma's house, and she was like, got it for me because she worked at a Woolworths. And they had a small little video game section, and so every once in a while she'd get me a game, and she knew I loved Friday the 13th, and she saw that game show up. She's like, I gotta get him that game, and so my grandma bought me that game when I had to have been. I think this game came out in 88 or 89, so I had to be like 6,
Really
either like 5 or 6. It was probably 6 because I remember I got my NES when I was 6. It might even have been that same summer I got my NES. Or the next summer.
Like one of your first games.
It was one of my first games, and like I said, I can recognize shitty games I like. This I don't think is a shitty game. It gets dogged on a lot for a lot of different game mechanics and theme choices, but I genuinely think it's a good game. What do you think about this game, Sako?
I like it. Especially I've heard a lot of bad mouth about this game, and I'd never really seen it. The only knowledge I had of this game till playing it was the Friday the 13th the game Easter egg, where one of the Jasons, I think it's part 5 Jason, you can change his skin, and he has the skin from this game.
What is it called, like the Raimi skin or something?
No, it's just you press like change appearance, and it like turns him purple, but it doesn't have a name.
Then they also made a those like, I think they're like foot tall action figure things, like my my pinhead one I have right back there. They have a Friday the 13th one, but it's themed as purple and green Jason, and I think it's I forget what it's called.
NES Jason?
No, it's called. I think they named it after somebody's name. I want to say Sam Raimi, but part of me says that that's horribly wrong. But I keep wanting to say that. But yeah, it's purple and green Jason. We'll get to purple and green Jason a little later. So let's start off with the game. So basically in this game, you start the game. You start off, you can pick from
6 counselors.
6 counselors. And they all have different sort of stats. Some are faster, some jump higher, some throw faster, can take more hits. Your basic, stats. And so you pick the game. You pick your character who you want to be, and you start off throwing rocks at numerous zombies that come out of the ground for some reason.
I thought those. So when I first picked it up, the more I played, I thought those were like supposed to be Jason's mom or something, because the way they like look reminds me of like her face.
Okay, I can see that. I can see saying, oh, but why so many of them?
Yeah, that was what confused me.
Like, okay, you got the zombies, you got the dogs, bats, right?
It was either
or
bats,
Medusa
like
heads
birds or something.
or birds. Those were in the caves.
Yeah, I didn't spend too much time in the caves.
They were probably bats.
There were probably bats in the caves, yeah. But there was something flying in the overworld too.
I want to say Medusa heads for some reason.
They weren't Medusa heads. The Medusa head was
his mom.
Yeah, I never made it there, but
you never made it there. You get
it.
The sweater.
Yeah, I never made it there, but I do know about it.
Let's see, and then you get I know you got the dogs, the zombies. I just played this the other day. Something flies at you. Maybe it is birds.
It looked like birds, but I mean,
probably birds or vultures. They're like vultures or something.
Yeah, probably. We could be horribly wrong right now.
It's a side-scrolling. I don't want to say beat 'em up because it's not really beat 'em up. It's more like a side-scrolling action game.
Yeah,
you just go back.
That's a good
left to right. You got a map screen because you need a map screen.
Because you won't know what you're doing.
Because without that map screen, holy shit. The trick about the map screen though is, you can go up and down on the map to go down trails, but the minute you go up and down on the map, you're going in the opposite direction.
Yep.
the map is flipped. So now you're going right, and you're going right on the map. You go down on the trail onto like Crystal Lake, and you keep going right. Now you're going left on the map. That is fucking
that
even as a
off.
goddamn adult. I don't think as a kid I ever wrapped my mind around that. Like I would just start walking in a direction and then watch what my little blip on the map, what direction it started going in. Like, okay, so that's the direction. Even after, okay, knowing that I went in this direction, then that direction, my mind still didn't, as a child, didn't put together, oh, it's flipped. That's why it was more like, okay, now I went down a trail. I don't know what fucking direction I'm going. I gotta test this on the map for a minute. And as a kid, okay, let's get back to the game. We can stop nostalgia breaking. So you go left and right. You got the map screen. You got the rocks. You can upgrade your weapons.
You can. You can also downgrade them.
And you can downgrade them.
Which made me so mad.
I forget. After you kill so many enemies, you upgrade the rock to a knife. And then after you kill some enemies, you upgrade that knife to an axe, right?
I don't know if it
or a hatchet.
I think a hatchet, and then after that is a machete.
Yep, the hatchet, and then the machete, and at the very end you can get a torch.
A torch, but you have to light all the fireplaces, which I also never did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to go in, because I got all of the ones on the outside, like all of the easy ones. I got those lit, and then I realized I had to go into the forest to light some of them, and I was like, I'm just good. I'll stay out, because I could never. I went into the forest once, and it took me forever to get out.
Okay, so let's get to that. So, aside from the weapons, you also collect a few items.
Yeah.
You get the torch, of course, which you can use as a weapon and also to light fireplaces. And you get a lighter. You get like a health potion or something.
Yeah, like a health potion thing.
And the lighter's used to light fireplaces, as Sako said. And so I'll let Sako go with this. So what's the basis of lighting the fireplaces?
So the fireplaces are found in. So there are two types of cabins. So to understand the fireplaces, you have to understand the two types of cabins, because you have to know how to find which one has the fireplace. The smaller cabins, those are the ones without the fireplaces. The bigger cabins are the ones with the fireplaces, and they're kind of they're all laid out the same, but it's still kind of easy to get lost in them if you're not paying attention. But generally, at the way back, there will be a fireplace. You turn to the you look at the fireplace, and if you have a lighter or a torch, you can light the fireplace using, I think, A.
Okay, so we got the cabins and the items, and you can randomly sometimes find items in the cabins.
Yeah. Generally, though, they were just notes. Most of the time, like, there were other items, but most of the time you'll just find notes in the...
and the notes just kind of tell you where other counselors are at, right?
Not where other like, just... Honest, I don't know. I feel like most of the time the notes, like, said, like, cave stuff for me.
Maybe they did. I don't ever remember like even paying attention to what the notes say.
I only was able to get one up because it took me forever to even figure out how to pick them up.
Because I think that when I was younger, the notes didn't make sense to me, and as an adult, I already knew enough about the game that I didn't need to read the notes. So I forget what the notes even say. And then also in cabins, sporadically, you'll find Jason.
Oh yeah.
Which is fun. Which is the jump scare is real in this game.
It is.
Because you also have to rescue kids that are in cabins.
Yeah.
And a lot of times Jason's going to be in that cabin when you're rescuing a kid. And you can also find the other counselors in cabins too. That's where you can switch out your characters.
You can switch out. Well, you can switch out really in any of the small cabins. You can switch out.
Yeah, but wherever that you find that counselor, that's where you would teleport to. Like, you wouldn't just switch out a character and then you're that character at the same place you were. Yeah, you would switch out to that counselor, and
which is a really good mechanic, because if Jason's in a cabin and you already have a counselor there, you can go into a small cabin, switch to that counselor, and you're where Jason
and you're
is,
there,
and you can fight him.
But that sometimes sucks, because now you're fighting Jason with your stupid rock or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you don't, when you switch counselors, you don't take that weapon with you.
Yeah, you don't take that weapon.
Start off from zero with the fucking rock, no lighter,
items,
none of that
nothing.
stuff. And that sucks.
It does.
Like, those rocks suck. Like you need to get that knife as soon as possible.
So in my first playthrough, I died on day 2, but I learned a lot of valuable information. You want to get everyone to at least a knife.
Okay, so what's the point of this game? What are we doing in this game?
We're killing Jason.
Okay, but what that's the goal?
That is the goal. I'm pretty sure. We're trying to defeat Jason. You
Okay.
can't really kill Jason.
You want to defeat Jason, but you also want to save the kids. Because if
You
you
wanna-
lose all the
yes.
kids, because in this game, unlike the movies, Jason kills fucking the children.
Yes, but
Like-
luckily we don't get to see it. That's
Like, he kills the children. You got like 5 kids, and that's basically like, if you don't get there in time, the kid dies. If you get there before that, you have to fight Jason, and if you obviously you die, or you don't kill him, you kind of scare him away.
yeah.
And fighting him in the cabins, that gets to be a little nerving. But when he randomly shows up on the overworld, because randomly when you're walking, suddenly you can't walk no
Yeah,
more.
you
The
can't
camera
walk
stops.
any further.
That's how you know, because suddenly the camera
'Cause
stops
the camera
moving.
stops moving, and all
then-
the enemies like just walk away.
Yeah, it's like
And you're
everybody
like,
takes
what?
off, and you're like, "Oh, what's about to happen?" Then you hear that chun 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 noise, and Jason flies from the side, and he's a fucking beast.
He's crazy.
Like, beating Jason in the overworld is much harder than beating him in a cabin.
oh yeah,
Like, beating him in a cabin is just like almost like Punch Out.
yeah. It really does feel like Punch Out.
Have you played Punch Out
I have played Punch Out
for the NES? Okay, cool. We're gonna have fun with that one day. But anyway, after you play Punch Out with Jason, he's got some crazy hair. When
He
you're fighting him in the
does.
cabin, he looks so much like an off-brand Jason. He looks like someone wearing a Jason costume,
He does.
as opposed to when you fight him on the side-scrolling screen.
It looks like Jason.
It looks like Jason. He's all big and hunched over, and just looks like a fucking brick
Beast.
shit house, dude.
Bro.
But when you fight him in that cabin, he's kind of scrawny. His hair looks all wild, and he's just like going back and forth like fucking Glass Joe on fucking Punch Out. I mean, that's fun. But it is much easier to beat him in there because you got some strategy. You can go back and forth. You can dodge.
Yeah.
When it's on the overworld, you're just
you have
trying to not to
jump
die.
over him and jump over his the thing is, if you there's only certain counselors I feel like that can fight him in the overworld without dying. And I don't remember the names, but I know Max is one of them. Max
I
is
know
one of
George is definitely not one of them.
George cannot jump. George, I'm pretty sure George had this the smallest
George is
jump.
like slow as shit, can't jump,
jump.
but I think he can take more damage. Or
He can take a bit of damage. And
either
his
he
throw
can
speed
take
isn't
more
too bad.
damage, either he can take more damage or he can deal more damage, which is cool, but also you're gonna die real quick because he has no mobility.
Yeah, like the only time he's
George
really
is the
good-
Raphael from the NES of Friday the 13th NES. Have you ever played Turtles NES?
I'm pretty sure I did at one point when I was younger.
We're gonna play that, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, now I get that reference about he's the Raphael." Like, you saved George for like cannon fodder. Like, if you need to just go
If you just need to go,
get somewhere real quick, and you don't care if the guy dies or not, you just throw some Georgie in there.
yeah.
So,
I don't
yeah.
know. I had like 2 characters that I mained for most of it, and I'm pretty sure Chrissy and Max were the 2 characters.
Chrissy is always my main on this game, and then the second one is Mark.
Maybe his name is Mark.
I think Mark, because Mark and Chrissy are both fast and they jump high. They don't hit as hard, but really, as long as you can play dodge a lot with
Yeah.
Jason, then those few extra times you have to hit him won't really matter because you can avoid damage,
Yeah,
and
you
that's the
can-
big thing.
The main thing is being able to jump over. Like if you're gonna, especially if you're in the overworld, like you have to be able to jump over him and over his throws.
I feel like a George, or there was another one that was like George, like the second George. I feel like those are the guys you want to send in to fight him in the cabins,
Yes.
because at that point your mobility really doesn't matter
No,
because
not
everybody's moving the same. So if you can hit him a little bit more, good. And that's kind of the strategy I use when I fight Jason is I save the Georges of the world for inside fighting. Those are inside.
That's
fighters.
how I played up until I got Chrissy the machete and no one else had it. So I was like, well, now Chrissy's just gonna be like, if I can use Chrissy to fight, I'm fighting with Chrissy.
And you keep Chrissy fucking health wise on tip top shape.
I think actually I finished. She'd only taken 2 hits on my second playthrough when I won.
Did you? So it only took you 2 fucking plays through to beat this game.
Yes.
I played this game for years as a child. I never actually beat this game until I was probably a teenager playing it on a fucking emulator or something. Like I am very
Envious.
disgruntled at you.
Oh, you're disgruntled.
That you beat this game in 2. I was like, this is gonna be a game that's gonna take you a while to beat it, and then you're like, yeah, I beat it on my second playthrough. Third playthrough was like extras. Piss me off. Where the hell do you get off beating Friday the 13th for the NES on your second try?
It wasn't too literally.
And you couldn't beat fucking Zelda 2. You beat this game on your second. That game has a save file, bro. At this game you have to start from scratch every time. There's not even a password system. But then again, this game isn't made for passwords, because
no, it's
if
not
you
too
could
long.
save and continue or get a password on this game,
Then
it would be too easy.
Because like if you sat down and play this game in one sitting, it'd be like 3 hours max.
Yeah, it's not a super long game, especially if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
A lot of it, I think, as a kid, is I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, I didn't know how the map worked. I didn't know that you had to save the kids, really. I mean, I kind of figured it out at some point, I bet, but I didn't really the concept of the whole game, because there's a lot of things going on. That's why I think this is a good game.
It is.
Like,
it's a pretty decent game.
Like, as far as Jason goes, it's not what I would. It doesn't feel like Friday the 13th to a point. Like, because I mean, you got zombies and you got wolves, all these things that are not in Friday the 13th movies. But
Literally
then again,
ever.
I can respect that, because if you were to make this game if you would make this same exact game
but remove everything except Jason,
it would be a very boring game.
It would.
Like, I can respect the video game elements that they had to put into this game to make it a video game.
Yeah.
Now you could have went a whole different way with this game and kind of made it more like a what am I thinking of, a game that is like a point and click game might have worked, and like, but that would have been lame, because who wants to pay a point and click?
No little
Zelda
kid
game
is gonna be like, go get me this new point and click game, mom.
You know, the side, if you just had the side scrolling parts without the cabin parts, again, there's not a whole lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah. Even with the finished product, there's still not too much meat on the bone, but there's enough there.
Yes,
like,
and that's why I can respect caves. I get nobody in Friday the 13th movies goes into caves and explores caves, but you know, it's if those weren't there, the people that complain about this game would be complaining that there's not enough environments. You know, the people that complain about the zombies and the dogs and stuff are the same people that would complain that there's not enough enemies in the game. Because technically, if you want this to be a Jason game, you wouldn't even put his mom in the game, really.
Yeah, because
it would just be.
She was in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, for like a little bit.
I mean, I could have seen as maybe putting her as a mini boss that you beat before you could beat Jason.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Which is what they kind of tried to do here, but you could still beat him without it.
Yeah, so it's more like, I can respect the things. I can respect.
Like, you have to make it a video game.
His mom being a mini boss, which was fucking cool. It took me so long of having this game before I actually found his mom, and I think when you find his mom, unless you have the sweater, you can't fight her. Right? Is that what happens? Or you fight her?
I never got there.
You fight her and get the sweater. I think if you get the sweater, and I know
there's get the sweater from fighting her, and then you can use that to fight.
I feel like you have to get a special key to get in her room, because then there's also keys.
I did find keys. I found keys for every single character I had a key, and I didn't know what they were for. I was like, why am I picking up these keys?
There are also keys. In the woods and in the cave, there are doors you can go in. Maybe not in the cave. Maybe just in the woods, where you can go in and you'll find cabins in the woods.
Yes, you will.
And a lot of those need keys. And one of them is the key. You'll find the cabin in the woods, and you'll find Jason's mom's head. And then you fight Jason's mom's head, and if you beat her, you get the sweater, which I think either makes you take less damage or makes Jason's attacks less potent. Not 100% sure. Can't remember. I didn't get the sweater on this playthrough.
And neither did I.
I got killed fighting his mom, and then was like, "Fuck it, I don't need her sweater."
Fair enough.
And then so like I said, I can respect all those little things, like going on Camp Crystal Lake and being in a boat. That's cool. You know, you can get around that way, and Jason will randomly just like fucking jet ski across the fucking.
And there's nothing to block it. Like, you can't. Like, he just does it. There's nothing.
And that's not canon. Jason can't just like fly through the water. I never even understood why Jason had extra like water power, seeing as how water is what fucking killed him. You know, like
even in the game for like the PlayStation, he can like swim super fast and like makes no noise, and it's like, he died here. How is this like?
He's not like got water powers. He's just as like. Even in the movies, I think when he goes in water, he doesn't die in the water, but he doesn't get powers. He just
he literally got stuck at the bottom of like the sea one time and like chained down there.
Well, it was the bottom of Crystal Lake where they put that boulder on him and put him under there.
And then they like threw him under. I don't. I never
Yeah,
watched
so,
that
I mean,
one, but I've seen it.
He's died in Crystal Lake several times. Like,
And-
that seems to be his weakness, because that's
and
where he
he-
keeps dying. Not where he turns into a speedboat and just flies across the screen at you. And that sucks, is when he does that, when you're in the raft, you can't avoid
block
it. Like, he just hits you. Like, if you're always gonna have that fear going, and that's what I like about this game. It creates tension.
Yeah.
Like, when you're in that boat trying to get from somewhere to somewhere else, if you have to, there is fucking tension, because at any second he could fly across the screen, and it's always random.
Which is why I stopped using, like, at first I was trying to use Crystal Lake, but, like, I kept getting attacked by him, so I started only using it when I had to get to those cabins that were on the lakeside. Like, and even then, like, I was, like, really heavily debating each time, like, should I just let those kids die, or should I go, like, or should I go face my
Fuck.
fears?
Are these kids worth it? That's what I think every morning when I wake up.
I know.
But anyhow, that's another video game thing that's not like movie canon that I can respect.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff in this game creates that tension, and that's where I like this game. Like, when you're walking on that side scrolling screen, it's random. At least if it's not random, I can't figure out what triggers it. Is suddenly Jason shows up. I don't know if it's a
I know
time
what
thing.
I figured out. So what it is he is constantly moving around the map. Like, he's always in a spot. So if, like, in the way I figured this out was because every time I would fight him in a cabin, I would leave the cabin, and if I walked, most of the time I would end up fighting him again right away. So I realized when he leaves the cabin and starts wandering towards somewhere else. It's when you end up in a spot that is close enough to him that he, like, knows you're there, your screen freezes and he comes at you.
Oh.
So, like, he's
Wow.
always somewhere on the map, and you have to, like, find
Oh,
him.
so he's always somewhere, and if you can figure it out. So if he's in a cabin and you fight him, then he leaves the cabin, you can probably fight him quickly afterwards if you pick the right direction.
Yep.
Is that how you beat the game so quick?
Yeah. That was because
You just kept running into him?
I kept running into him.
So
right
you were stalking Jason
He
and
was-
fucked it up on the second try. That goddamn. So
Especially because I was always using Chrissy and stuff when I fought him indoors, so, like, I was already using the counselor. I needed to fight him outside too.
I knew there was a reason I picked you to do this podcast with me. Could you beat Jason on the second try? Fucker.
I mean, it's not a hard thing. Like, I feel like I can see why, like, it takes a minute to, like, notice that, but once you, like, sit there and look at it and, like, really, it takes, like, running into it in those, like, really easy to notice spots to notice that that's what's going on. Because when you just run into him on the map, it's like, well, why is he here all of a sudden? Like, what brought him to this exact spot? So, like,
I always thought it was just like random ROG.
you know, and I guess
RNG.
RNG, random number generator. I mean, I guess in theory it could be like where he is at every moment is probably RNG, like which way he goes and like where he
Yeah,
goes.
but
like,
if you're on a long path and you picked the right way, you could theoretically just keep chasing him down and fighting him.
oh yeah, and I did it twice. I would chase him. I did that twice in the entire playthrough. I would get him 3 times before I was unable to find him again. I would just
Jeez.
chase him down the path until eventually he would like move another spot and be like, "Where did he go?"
Well, that's fun.
It is. In another, like, you can kind of tell though, like, because if you chase him and you like go and like there's like, say you fight him right here and then right outside of the screen is like a path you can go up.
He's making a lot of gestures that you guys can't see right now.
Well, because I'm making it so you can understand. I'm explaining it, but I'm making just so you can see what I'm saying better. So like, there's a path here, and you like it's right outside the screen. There's a path. You fight him, and he goes. He's either gonna keep going forward, or he's gonna take that path. Let's say you go forward, don't take the path, and then in a few seconds you see like the timer start counting down for how much time you have to save the children. You look at the map. Generally, Jason will be in a cabin along that path he just went up.
So if you would have took the path, you would have ran into him.
Yes, most likely. Unless of course you didn't
You
go the
put
right
a.
way.
Do you read any facts or guides for this game?
No.
You promised me you didn't read this. You figured this out all on your own.
Yes, I figured this is all just stuff I like noticed.
Within how many days of playing this game did it take you to beat it?
5.
So you played it one day, skipped 4 days, then played it again on the 5th day and beat it?
Well, no, I played it every day, but because I played it during my free period.
So you technically didn't beat it on your second playthrough.
No, I did beat it on my second playthrough, because
You save stated?
yeah, I save stated.
Okay, so
Because I was in the middle.
we'll put. I beat this on my second playthrough with an asterisk.
Well, because I mean, I was playing it during my free periods at school, and through my entire day at school with my free periods is an hour and a half. So
Okay.
an hour and a half each day, like
So
assuming I didn't have any.
You
work
spent
and
about
stuff.
five hours playing this game
Roughly.
and beat it, and you broke down this fucking game in 5 days to where you figured out the mechanics better than I did for fucking years. And when I played this game when I first had it, it was like one of the 5 games I had. So I played it, a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
The reason I'm on this podcast.
There's a reason he's on this podcast. That just makes you want to pick some really fucking obscure hard ass game. We're playing Silver Surfer next game. Just cancel. We're not playing. We're not playing Friday the 13th. We're playing Silver Surfer. Break that shit down, bro.
Well, and also because like
Playing Shadowgate.
I think it was my like I really liked this game. So I think it was like I really wanted to understand the mechanics like as quick as I could because I liked the game so much.
So you liked the game? It didn't bother you like the liberties they took with
No, not really.
the
Like
game?
I can see the arguments for it, but like it's a video game. You have to give it video game stuff.
See, that's what I'm saying. When people complain about that stuff a lot too, where what am I thinking? What's a good example I can bring as far as that? The Jaws game. Another LJN joint. You start off as like a scuba diver and you're fighting all these things underwater, and then you get like this submarine and then an airplane and then all this random shit, and then you don't really fight Jaws, and then at the very end you fight Jaws. It's like, well, with all that other stuff that people complain about, it would just be like one fight where you fight Jaws and that's
and
it.
then it would be over.
You got to put video game things in your video game, especially back in the days when you couldn't do a whole lot. You couldn't make it like now they have the Friday the 13th game.
That is literally just Friday.
That is Friday the 13th,
like,
and that is what you would be like. That is a Friday the 13th.
Really
game.
sad that project got like abandoned.
But it was super good. When that game first
good.
came out, I played the shit out of it all the fucking time.
I have it installed. I haven't touched it in a bit, but it's
I haven't played
really
it in
good.
years. But
it's
when
really good.
it
For
first
what
came
it is.
out, dude, I played the crap out of it on the PlayStation. Like,
Yeah.
I was all about that.
Cause like now that idea works. Like now the idea of having someone plays Jason and all these campers that works. You can do that. Back then you couldn't do something.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
couldn't have. It couldn't have been a multiplayer game. It couldn't have been. Just
Jason.
trying to find Jason.
Because then it would be too boring.
Because if you take out all the non-canon things in this game, it's pretty bare bones. You take out You take out the kids you have to rescue. You take out the caves. You take out the messages, I guess.
Well, and, like,
you take out Jason's mom. You take out all the enemies except for Jason. And what are you left with? You just walking back and forth, waiting to find Jason.
Well, and let's say you take out all the kids. I mean, I guess there would still be the like mechanic of like having to go to the cabin because you could like have to go save the other counselors and stuff.
See, I honestly would find that more in line with the Jason movies.
Exactly.
Okay, well, every counselor is in a specific cabin. A countdown would start, and then you would have to go to that cabin in time to save that counselor, and then maybe the longer it took, the less health that counselor would have after you got there.
I think it did. They would never die, but I think they did gradually lose health. If they were in that cabin, they did gradually lose health till you got there. I think that.
Because Jason can go into one of the cabins with a kid. Or he can go into a cabin with a counselor, right?
And
if he goes into one with a counselor,
they
gradually lose health.
And if you don't save them, they die.
Yep. But I think you could take out the whole kid mechanic because Jason's never. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where Jason killed a kid.
No, there was 2 movies. I think there's only ever been 2 movies with the kids in them, and they never died. I don't think.
Well, there was actually, I think, in the Friday the 13th Part 6, when he's an actual zombie. He goes into the cabins with the kids, and the kids see him, and they're like, "Oh no, it's the boogeyman." But we can also go to Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter with Corey Feldman. And Corey Feldman, I wouldn't say he's a teenager in that movie. I wouldn't say you would classify him as a teenager.
Fair enough.
And he's not only the one that Jason's trying to kill, he's the one that kills Jason.
Took a kid to do this job.
I can't think of a second Friday the 13th movie. I don't think the kids even show up before the thing. I think a lot of those movies, all the stuff happens before the kids even show up. Yeah, it's like when the counselors first get there and they're setting up their shit, like the first Friday the 13th with Johnny Depp. I mean, I know it's his mom that kills everybody, but still, like, it's before the kids show up, I think. And then the second one, it's before the kids show up. The third one, there's not even any kids involved in the third one. It's just those fucking kids going out to the lake for like just to go out to stay on a cabin on the lake. Yeah. And the fourth one, it's the kids going out to the lake, and then the other family lives there, and Corey Feldman kills Jason. The fifth one doesn't even have a real fucking Jason in it. The fifth one, you seen the fifth one where it's like that dude's dad or something dressing up like Jason? And the sixth one, when they resurrect him, the kids are there when he's there. The seventh one, he's in New York, which doesn't, so I mean, obviously.
That one's weird.
That one's cool. I like.
It's cool, but it's
part
weird.
8.
Not what I expected.
The ending on part 8. Have you seen the ending on part 8? Right, where he turns back into a kid somehow from the toxic acid in New York sewer.
I think I
doesn't
saw
make
that.
no fucking sense.
No
sense whatsoever. And then the 8th one where Jason goes to hell.
Yeah.
And that's where he's like somehow back to like Super Jason again. Like he's even bigger and zombie-ier than in the fucking 7th movie. And then they catch him and then he becomes into a brain or a body jumping slug or something, and that's really fucking weird. And then after Jason goes to hell, it's what, Jason X?
No, because Jason X is Jason 10, so we're missing Jason 9.
Is that for no? I think Jason X, because there's Jason goes to hell, and then
there's something after Jason goes to hell.
Freddy versus Jason is after Jason X.
No, I know. But there was a part 9, wasn't there?
No.
Because Jason X is supposed to be Jason, because X is 10 in Roman numerals.
No.
So I guess maybe I'm just reading that wrong, but when I think
it's
X,
Jason.
I think Jason like 10.
Let me think. Hold on. You talk some more about this game for a second.
Yeah. So back to the cabin mechanic. So the bigger cabins have the same layout. What it is there's you start out in one big hallway, and you walk forward into another room, which is another hallway, and it takes 3 steps to get through the first hallway.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good.
So, Jason, Friday the 13th, part 7 is when he fights the psychic chick and he gets locked back underwater. That's we skipped that. Part 7.
Yep.
When there are no kids there because, once again, it's just a bunch of teenagers going to the lake to party. And then the other family is going there because the chick has weird psychic powers because she, like, killed her dad with, like, Jason power from, like, the beginning of the movie. And so then at the end of the movie, it's like a fucking psychic showdown between psychic lady and fucking Jason. Zombie versus psychic. It's, like, crazy. And then her dad comes back to life and saves the day or something at the end. You know what? People talking shit about this game not making sense.
Let's talk about the movie lore.
The movies don't really make a lot of sense.
Like and then you go from all of that to Jason X, which is like in the future. Like they just resurrect him for some reason. They're like this guy.
Well, I mean, part 9 goes off the rails a little bit.
Part 9 does go
Jason's
off the rails.
A fucking slug.
Yeah. Like
his body gets destroyed and he's like a body jumping slug that takes over people's, and suddenly Jason is just anybody, you know. And then there's that fucking like bounty hunter who hunts Jason down, and then he goes to hell, and there's that Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street reference at the end where Freddy grabs this thing, foreshadowing the 15 years later when we'll have a Freddy versus Jason movie. But, okay, so yeah, Jason X is Jason 10 when he goes into space, which although is a stupid
I feel like it's not really a good Friday the 13th movie, but it's a decent movie.
I'll give you that. It's a decent like sci-fi horror movie.
Yeah, like I feel like it maybe if they instead of Jason they did like some like they made a whole character for it and something like. But you'd be a good.
A lot of that movie is carried by the lore of Jason and he's suddenly not a brain slug that fucking jumps from body to body.
Yeah. Like it's.
I mean, he does like turn into like fucking cyborg Jason, which although is stupid idea,
pretty cool.
It's pretty fucking cool.
Pretty cool. Love Cyborg Jason.
Cyborg Jason is
the last thing we ever saw actually on Friday the 13th. The last update was for Virtual Cabin, and it was foreshadowing bringing Cyber Jason into the game, and then the game got scrapped.
Oh, that's so sad.
Like, I remember playing.
You would think they'd at least bring since it's the Friday the 13th movie, fucking I think is the licensing and all that is what fell through for it.
Yeah, that's what exactly happened.
If they would have, since that fell through, if they could just got the licensing from that and put him in Dead by Daylight, because I mean, Friday the 13th game took a lot of ideas from Dead by Daylight.
It did,
but it did it in a Jason way.
It did. It was very good for.
It could be different, but Jason would fit into the Dead by Daylight thing so much.
Did he ever get put into Dead by Daylight?
I don't believe so.
I feel like
just like Leatherface. Leatherface, instead of putting Leatherface in Dead by Daylight, they just made another game very similar to the Dead by Daylight, just like Jason was very similar to Dead by Daylight.
I don't know. I would like the. I mean, I think now that it's been so long since the Friday the 13th game has even been touched, it would be a good idea to bring like Jason into Dead by Daylight. But I feel like I really like the original idea of giving Jason his own game, because it really does make sense. Like, yeah,
I would much rather play just strictly Jason, and I think that's probably what they did. Their idea was with the Chainsaw Massacre game that came out recently, is they didn't really want to use. They wanted to use the like the skeleton that of Dead by Daylight has, but they wanted the mechanics to be different, and they are different.
Oh yeah.
Just like the mechanics on, and I like them. Honestly, I like the mechanics on the Friday the 13th game better than Dead by Daylight game.
I've never touched Dead by Daylight, but
Dead by Daylight, you've never touched it, but you like it.
I like it because I've seen like, and I've seen a lot of like cool ideas of the game, and I've seen like a lot of people play it, but I've never actually been able to play it.
What I like better about Friday the 13th game is like you have the entirety of like the map.
Oh,
like, yeah. And it's a big area where you can run and you can actually hide and stuff. Dead by Daylight is more like an arena. Like the maps are much smaller. Like,
yeah,
and there's not a whole lot of running and hiding. And the mechanics are, start the generators, do this. It's a checklist of things you have to do to win a round. Whereas
that's kind of what it is in Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
but not necessarily.
You can do it in so many different ways.
Yeah, there's so many different ways.
I mean, you could even just survive.
Yeah, you can survive. Like, you could really, in theory, you could sit under a bed for the whole 30-minute game, and if Jason never found you.
And sometimes you fight some Jasons that are stupid, and sometimes you fight some Jasons that have been playing that game since day one.
Like, just know it in and out. Like, you don't have a chance. And I really like. Oh, I love the Friday the 13th game. Like, I like both of them. I was like, I'm gonna have some bias because I really love the 3D one. No, I still like the 2D one. I thought there was gonna be like heavy bias on it because I'm like, this isn't gonna be anything like it, but it was still really good.
It's a video game.
It is. It really feels like a video game. And
like, I go back to this again, is I couldn't think of a way they could have made this video game on the NES in a better way. Like, could you think of any, like, even if you scrapped the whole idea of the way they made this game, could you think of a better way to make a Friday the 13th game for the NES?
Maybe one where you, like, play as Jason. I could see being, like, not necessarily better, though. I feel like.
I could see that, but at the same time, who are your enemies? Just the counselors that you're super overpowered and you're just going to kill?
Well, that's, like, the counselor, like, there should be, like, the counselors are. That's the thing with, like, NES games, though. It's hard to make, like, something where like the counselors are like doing a lot of stuff. Like, what I would say is like you have a certain amount of time that you have to get to all the counselors, right? And like there are certain things, like you have obstacles. I don't know what those obstacles would be off the top of my head, but there's like obstacles, but you have to like overcome these obstacles and get to all the counselors. And if you don't, the counselors get stronger and stronger over time. Like they start getting like weapons, and they start like they even get the code and stuff that like weakens you, and like you have to.
So basically, this same exact game,
but
only
like,
you're playing as Jason.
Yeah.
Okay, but then we're not scrapping the whole idea. We're just taking it and flipping who you play. And see, that would have been cool. Maybe that they would have added in a new, even though New Game Plus wasn't a thing back in the day.
Yeah.
Maybe make a thing where if you beat it once, like you would unlock Jason mode.
Or like you get a password and you put that in.
Yeah, and you can unlock Jason mode. And then once you unlock Jason mode, then you play as Jason, and then you have to find the kids that are hidden in certain cabins around the place and kill them. And randomly throughout the time, you would like run into counselors that would fight you. I could see that, but back in the days with the NES allowing you to play a serial killer killing
Probably.
children.
Yeah, it's probably pushing
I
it.
can't even believe this got past the fucking censors at Nintendo, because
Yeah,
back in the day,
that's-
Nintendo was strict about that shit.
They still are.
Like, yeah, but not. I mean, you still have like Mortal Kombat. You have stuff on
Yeah.
the Switch and shit. But back in the days, like they took out all kinds of references to any kind of reference to religion or sexuality or anything like that. Was
Yeah.
you don't get past any censors with that stuff, for the most part, except for sometimes you see some shit sneak by. But
generally, it's
I wouldn't
very
see
tight.
them allowing you to be the killer, and that might have been what the thing was. But at the same time, when you're thinking about making a Friday the 13th game back in
think
the,
about
you're not
playing
thinking of
Jason.
we're gonna play as Jason, because obviously that's the boss. That's who you gotta
Yeah,
be.
that's the guy you need to fight.
You know, thinking about, oh, I'm Jason fighting teenagers. You're like, oh, well, that's a massacre.
Yeah, and then at that point you're pushing it.
You win the game by fucking murdering a bunch of kids. What's the like end screen gonna look like? Just you standing over a pile of dead bodies and blood?
Or just you standing there and saying, Jason has once again defeated all of his enemies. He may now rest in peace till the next
I bet
year.
you there's a hack out there.
There probably
there's,
is.
there's a hack for this game where you play as Jason.
There's
I
gotta
bet.
be one.
There has to be a hack where you play as Jason.
I would have, honestly, I probably might look for it because it kind of sounds fun.
Yeah, just what you just described to me sounds like a game I want to play. And if there's not one,
We need to make
we need to
that.
figure out how to hack an NES game.
we need to figure out how to make ROM hacks. That's our thing now.
We're gonna make the ROM hack where you play as Jason and you just murder kids and children. If you murder the counselors, you win the game. But if you murder the kids, you get like bonus points.
Gosh. Nintendo will send us a cease and desist letter.
Like, what is wrong with you guys? You're picking this game was released in like 89, so you're picking up a 10,
40-year-old
20,
game.
24-year-old game and ROM hacking it. But people do ROM hacks all
Yeah,
the time.
people make ROM hacks all
Nintendo
the
can
time.
eat my dick.
I'm sure they can.
They're not gonna sue me. They don't even know me. If Nintendo gave me the publicity of suing me over a ROM hack, this
Honestly,
podcast
this
would
podcast
explode.
yeah, this would be insane. That's the best. Like that's the best form of publicity.
Like, we would be all over Reddit. We'd be like, did you hear about these fucking dudes that made this random podcast and after the third episode got sued by Nintendo? Because they made a ROM hack of the Friday the 13th game where you murder children.
It would.
And then
publicity
the-
would never end.
The comment after that would be like, yeah, and it's a really cool fucking game too.
Exactly. We're just thinking about the best ways to get our names out there, man.
That's publicity. You're an idea man.
Exactly.
Your power comes from your long hair.
I know it does. They'll never get to see it unless they check out my other various things I do on the internet.
OnlyFans.
Only. Yeah. What would you say is the hardest aspect of the game?
Of this game, the hardest aspect, I always have a problem saving the kids.
Literally couldn't be me. It was not an issue for me getting to all of the cabins.
Well,
like,
the thing
quick.
was, I had impatience with saving the kids.
Fair enough. Okay, that's fair.
Because if I was on my way to go find something or to go get, find Jason's mom or to go, whatever, and a kid started dying, I'd be like, you know what? I'll get there.
I'll wait.
That's a long ways away.
He'll be fine.
I usually, if one kid died, then I would start, worrying about it. But that first kid that starts the timer down, I just consider that collateral damage. I'm like, you know what? I got what, 5 kids? If I lose one,
It'll be good. But then you end up losing counselor, and you're like, ah.
yeah. If a counselor unless it's George. If it's George's
George,
cabin,
whatever.
I'm like,
He'll be-
George.
He can do it himself. He'll be.
Someone's gotta die. It's probably gonna be you, but it's not gonna be Mark or Chrissy. If I was near somewhere where I was like, okay, well, I'll go in here and just teleport to be George and fight him as George, I'm probably gonna die, but then I don't have to fucking worry about George no more, so that's all right.
Yeah. I really, we didn't talk enough about, really, I feel like we haven't talked enough about the inside fighting mechanic. Because we spent a lot of time covering, like, fighting him outside, but we didn't really talk about fighting him inside.
Well, it's like, okay, well,
It's
speak
like-
on. It's
well,
like Punch Out.
It is like Punch-Out, but it does have its own. It has its own quirks to it, like, especially the thing that caught me off guard was like you would dodge him and he would just like start running around in circles.
He
like,
gets pissed when you dodge him.
He's like going crazy. I'm like, I'm over here. What are you? He like.
I like that you could throw things at him, but he couldn't throw things at you.
That was I did.
That
like that
helped a lot because you can just play the distance game.
Yeah, but the hardest part, fighting him on day one, really easy. Like there's not much there's not much strategy that goes to it except for dodging and just throwing. Right? He's not too fast. Like then you get to day 2, sure he's a little fast, but like and you have to have a little bit of strategy. Then you get to day 3.
and he's a little bit harder to fight that time.
So the only strategy I could get for killing, like for getting any hits off on this dude, right? I have to dodge like a whole second before, like, so he sends that first hit at me. He goes to the side. I dodge like a whole second before he's like coming at me. So then the instant he hits at me, like I dodge it and I'm up that second. I dodge before he sends out his second hit. So I can throw out whatever my weapon is the instant, like before he's even done finishing his attack. I can throw out 1 or 2 at him and they'll hit him, and then like I'll get 1 or 2 hits off on him. That was the only way I could get any hits.
I don't think I usually when I defeat Jason, I don't defeat him in the cabins. I defeat him on the side scrolling part.
That's how I did get my final like attack on him on the outside part. But fighting him inside on the 3rd day, it is so incredibly annoying because if you don't time your dodges right, like even just by a second, you won't have enough time to throw at him, and you'll like end up throwing, and he'll already be back down, and you'll like get hit because it takes so long like for the throw animation.
And you got all this strategy down playing through on your second playthrough.
Yes.
Jesus. See, that's what I don't like fighting him inside after the first day.
I don't like it either, but like you kind of have to at some point.
Yeah, you have to. I would much rather try to find him on the overworld.
Yeah, and especially it's easier for me to find him on the overworld because I just like
because you figured out the fucking strategy to like chase him down, which makes it a lot easier. I think I might play through it again knowing that, see if I can't fucking chase him down and stalk Jason.
Yeah, and there's still a bit of randomness to it because you don't know which way he went and stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, it's always nice to try to get.
But really, if it's only like a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, it's like a 50-50 shot. So most of the time you'll end up getting to him. And like, really, if he isn't like, if you go one way and it doesn't go, just keep committing to that way and walk as far as you can. And then if you end up going in a circle, well, then you know you missed a path somewhere that he took.
And that's honestly the only cool thing about the caves. Is that he doesn't attack you in the caves.
Yeah.
But there are pits in the caves.
Oh, yeah. If you fall down a pit, you just lose that guy.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't go through the caves at all in my second playthrough. I did on my first playthrough.
I forget why you have to go through caves. I think there's an item you get in the caves.
Probably. I don't know. I went through the caves on my first playthrough a little bit, and I lost like 2 guys to them. So I was like, you know what? Screw the caves. I
think there's like a cabin in the cave or something that you get something or. Probably. I think that's where you can like just go get the hatchet off the
that would actually make a lot of sense.
I think there's like a weapon in the caves that you can go in there and you can get right away. I know in the woods too you can get a machete. I think
that's where I got my machete for Chris. He was in the woods.
In the woods, yeah, like in a cave.
I did my best not to go in like the woods and stuff.
Did you get it in a cabin or did you just find it in there?
I found it in the woods, just in the middle of the woods.
I think there's a cabin in the woods where you can get a weapon. There's a cabin in the cave where you can get a weapon. I believe it's the hatchet. It could be completely fucking wrong. So I'm just trying to remember from like 15 years ago. 20 years ago? How old am I?
You're like
30 years ago?
You're like
so like 20 some years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean the last time I played it before this was probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, and you probably didn't play for too long. Like you probably just
I think I beat it. I think every time I sit down to play this game I'll beat it.
Well, yeah, I mean it's not hard, but like you probably weren't like super.
Yeah, I was just like I'm going to just play through this game real quick. I was like I'm not going to fucking 100% this game.
Yeah, no, 100%ing this game. Like, sure, I figured out like a lot of the strategy for hunting down Jason and stuff, but 100%ing this game would be a whole different task.
Well, I just fixed RetroArch on your retro achievements on your RetroArch, so
can get achievements.
You probably could go through and get all the fucking Friday the 13th achievements pretty easy since you fucking deconstructed this game
within a few days, 5 hours max.
That's crazy. That just shows me how much you like Friday the 13th, that you were just like going into this like I'm going to just this game is going to be a fucking thing for me.
Yeah.
Are you going to play it again after this?
I probably will. It was a really good game. It'll probably be one of those games like, you know, when you're bored and you don't have anything to do, you don't want to like watch like TV or anything, because you want to do something, so you're like, well, I'll just go play a random game. This is gonna be that one of those games for me.
So this will be one of your like for me, Tetris. If I want to sit down, I don't want to play a game, but I just want to play a game, play Tetris.
Honestly, yeah, Tetris is a good one for that.
Or like any Final Fantasy game, or Chrono Trigger, or.
You said Chrono Trigger.
You played Chrono Trigger?
Never played it.
You're
but I have a lot of
gonna.
friends who have.
You're gonna play Chrono Trigger.
I know.
I just scrapped our next idea. Next game we're playing is Chrono Trigger.
Man, we've already gone through 2 ideas.
No, I think the next one we're gonna do is still gonna be Friday or
Nightmare
on Elm Street. And we only did like a week between recordings this time because it didn't take too long.
But I'm sure we're gonna wait to release this one till the 13th to make it all special.
Well, at least till next. That'd be this weekend.
That'll be this. No, Friday the 13th will be next week. Friday.
Yeah, like this week, dude. It's Monday.
Oh, it's Monday. I forgot. I didn't have school today, so I'm like, my brain still thinks it's Sunday.
We'll do this for the rest of the week. We'll play Nightmare on Elm Street and then record sometime this weekend.
Yeah.
And then release it. We'll just have like October will be like our special month where we actually release a podcast every week. We'll do Nightmare on Elm Street, and then we'll do probably a bigger game that'll take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because I can't.
Castlevania maybe.
That's another game that we could probably knock out in a week.
Really? I don't know. I guess I don't know how big Castlevania is. Never played it.
It depends on the Castlevania game. We could pick Castlevania 1 or 3. I think 2 would probably take longer. 2's more. It's a whole Nintendo thing where the second game of a series ends up being way fucking different than all the other ones.
Yeah, I know.
You get Castlevania, the first one, which is like a linear, you just go through the castle, and then you got Castlevania 2, where it's like a whole day-night cycle. There's merchants. It's more Metroidvania type thing where you have to go one way and then unlock something, go another way, and it's very obscure, and you will not beat that game without a guide. I can tell you 100%, because there is a spot in that game where nothing tells you what to do. There's nothing that tells you what you need to do to get to the last part of the game. You have to be told.
There's no stumbling upon it.
There is no. I mean, I could see a maybe 1 in 1,000 chance of a person stumbling upon it, but it would be a complete accident, and to even be there to stumble upon it would be
incredible.
Incredible. And if you told me you beat Simon's Quest on the fucking NES without a guide, I would call you a liar.
I'm sure you would.
I would call.
I'm pretty sure you were on the verge of calling me a liar for like not using a guide to figure out everything about this game.
No, because I also do know you enough to know that I could see you not obsessing, but sparking an interest where you hyper fixate on it, and you're like, I'm gonna figure out the mechanics of this game.
It's my overt autism.
Not autistic, he's just weird.
But I mean, and it's something I like to do with like any game that I think I'm gonna get into. Like any game, I'm like, this is gonna be a game like I want to like be. One of the first things I like to do is figure out as much.
I put Jason in a different class, and I put Freddy. So like I could see being way more fucking obsessed about a Jason game, just myself as well as you, since you're my offspring. Whereas Friday the Nightmare on Elm Street game is like, okay, and then I played the Nightmare on Elm Street game, and you're gonna be like, oh, this takes as many liberties as Jason, the Friday the 13th game, takes for the NES. The Nightmare on Elm Street game, it's a little more explainable because you're like in dreamland or whatever. Yeah. So it's like, oh, anything can happen, but at the same time, it's a little less fun.
Would you believe me if I've told you I've only ever watched 30 minutes of Nightmare on Elm Street ever?
Which one?
I don't even remember. I think it was like the third one though.
Okay, so
I won't see.
I know what movies we're watching tonight.
I won't see the liberties the same as I did with like the Friday the 13th game. I won't.
Probably not.
Because to me that'll probably be like, oh.
But I was as much as I loved Never Know Shit as a kid too, I was less interested in it than Jason.
It's just not as cool of an idea, I guess. Like I could see how some people might like it more, but for me, it's not as cool.
I mean, he's a wisecracking pedophile. What do you want?
Exactly.
he makes jokes. He's funny, but he also like rapes kids, so whatever. Well, I guess let me take that back a little bit. In the old Nightmare on Elm Street movies, he was not a pedophile. In the old Nightmare on Elm Street movies, he just murdered children.
Yeah.
It wasn't until they remade it and they turned him into a fucking pedophile, which is why I hate the fucking remake. Because the other one, he's just a demon that killed kids, which I can respect.
Yeah, it's like
because I frequently want to kill kids.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. No names in specific there.
Especially mouthy teenagers.
Well, he's not quite a teenager yet, but he is right above us.
Yeah, I think we're talking about you and your sisters, but whatever.
I'm not that mouthy. I'm not too bad. I am a little bit. I will admit.
And yeah, so anything else you got to say about this game?
Loved it.
Loved it?
I loved it.
All right, so on this 8-bit game, on a scale of 1 to 8, what would you give this game?
Getting 7.
Getting a 7?
I can't give it an 8 because of how easy it was for me to deconstruct everything in it. So like, it didn't feel like too mysterious enough to be like ooh, this is a super cool game. I don't understand how it works. But it's definitely a 7.
Okay, I'm going to go a different way with this than you. I'm going to give it a 7. I'm not going to give it an 8 because of how hard it was to deconstruct this game as a kid and why I couldn't figure out the way it worked. So we're just going a different way than you. Same score, but completely opposite reason why it's not getting an 8. But, yeah.
I like the mystery in a game. Like, oh, I don't know why this happens, but I like that it happens. Like, I like that.
See, that's, I think, what was a thing that really kept it in as a game I played over and over again as a kid, because I didn't, if I would have been able to deconstruct it like you and predict when things were happening and you know.
Like, and I guess I could always be wrong. I could have just, like, somehow been stumbling upon.
I think that sounds right, though.
It sounds right.
It sounds logically how you would make it work from a programming standpoint.
Yeah.
To make the encounters happen seemingly random, but actually make sense.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I could always be wrong, but at the end of the day, I mean, it wouldn't change it. It still feels like that's what's happening, so.
All right, so you got any plugs?
I got any plugs? Go check out Teenage Podcast. We just recorded, actually, yesterday, so in a week, or maybe the same day this comes out, actually, we will be releasing our next episode. And that is a podcast where you get to see me and my friends talk in ways I don't talk on this podcast about semi-political and funny things, and just have a great blast.
Yay! And you can catch this. Thank you for listening. You can catch us on Google Podcasts. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts. Catch us on YouTube,
Spotify
at RetroQuest Podcast. Catch us on Spotify at RetroQuest. We're gonna probably at some point have a Discord.
We will. We
have a Facebook page if you want to go there and see that nobody ever goes to Facebook anymore because I don't even know why I created it. We got a Twitter at RetroQuest64.
64. I like that.
Well, because I had to. It wouldn't let me just put RetroQuest. So at RetroQuest64 on Twitter. You can catch us on all your podcast aggregators. And next week we're gonna be playing Nightmare on Elm Street. So we'll see you then, and thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button.
If you're on YouTube.
Also,
follow us on Spotify.
Follow us on
Apple Podcasts. And like and subscribe on YouTube.
Just follow us like Sako following Jason around a map.
Exactly. And share us like I shared my techniques on how to find Jason in this episode.
Okay. Good job. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you later.
Peace.